Hello and welcome. This is your host E Racer MK back again, and we're going to do a open beta review on GranBlue Fantasy Rising. So before I do the review, many of you may be asking, what is GranBlue Fantasy? And let me explain it. GranBlue was released in 2014 on iOS, Android, iPads, anything that you can think of, including Windows too. It is a tactical traditional RPG. Think of something like Final Fantasy or Fate, Grand Order. You battle monsters to gain EXP items. You can get weapons or different heroes in different classes like mages, healers, assassins, tanks, you name it. It also has the gotcha element. Basically, the people that know what gotcha is basically like you got a chance to get like rare heroes in this game, whether you use their game currency or your real money to recruit these heroes, but it's by chance. So yeah, it is basically gambling. Just try to get a rare character. There was supposed to be an international release of GranBlue Fantasy, but Side Games decided to, patch things up with the settings. Instead of trying to do international release, they just add, like, for example, the characters will speak in Japanese, but if you're like an English speaking language like me, the words and text will be in English. So they did that for anyone that is interested in GranBlue. So yeah, this is only a Japan release only game, but there's a loophole on to play GranBlue Fantasy. You can actually Google it on your web browser, or if you own like a how should I say any type of iPad or Apple that's like you bought from like a Japanese phone phone center, you can actually get the game from GranBlue. It's weird, but it makes me kind of wish there was an international release of GranBlue. Now, here's an interesting part. After 9 years after its initial release, GranBlue is still is played by this day. At one time, man, there used to be 23 million players that used to play this game. And that is a lot. Not so many games can do what GranBlue did. I mean, after 9 years and you still got fans that still play this game, I mean, that's an accomplishment in itself. Thanks to the popularity of GranBlue, it has its own manga, anime, an action RPG that's going to be released this year, and the games you're seeing right now, the GranBlue Fantasy Versus. Basically, it's a fighting game. That'll be it with the GranBlue Fantasy brief history. Let's get down to business about the open beta of GranBlue Fantasy Rising, shall we? GranBlue Fantasy Versus Rising is a 2D anime fighting game where you pick your favorite GranBlue Fantasy characters and battle it out. It got your standard special moves, light, medium, heavy attack, your super mirrors, supers, but this is not what made GranBlue Fantasy Versus Rising unique. What made GranBlue Fantasy Versus Rising so unique is that it has something that most players can integrate from. For example, if you play Mortal Kombat, you know there's a block button for Mortal Kombat. Guess what? GranBlue Fantasy Versus got the block button for people that play Mortal Kombat. If you play Smash and you're used to doing the sidestep to dodge the opponent's attack, guess what? They got the sidestep for that. Also, if you're integrating from King of Fighters, they do got a roll button for King of Fighters. There are characters trait or character like powers. For example, if Lil Wayne uses character trait, he'll summon like food, basically food that can replenish his health or food that replenishes super meter. The character's traits differ from character, so this gives many players to experiment on these characters and their traits. There are also a simple button mode for all these characters, which if you don't know how to do a normal special for some of these characters, you can there's a simple button mechanic for these type of characters. You can also use the simple buttons to use your supers also, which is very good for some players that are not good at inputting their supers or specials. It's basically like this. No matter what background or what fighting game background you guys play, you will never feel alienated by playing GranBlue Fantasy Versus. And what's the new part about GranBlue Fantasy versus Rising? Well, the new part about GranBlue Fantasy Rising is they got a EX special moves where you sacrifice 50 of your meter and use like an EX special, which that will if you use the EX special, your cooldown of your special move have to reset. There's also a rush mechanic where you use like your meters to break down your opponent's guard. And here's a cool part: after you break your opponent's guard, you can use if you got any meter spared, you can use that and follow up with an attack with against your opponent. Also, if your opponents guard your rush down, they will lose little guard points, where basically those little guard points is basically like breakers. Think of something out of Mortal Kombat. The guard points that I talked about is basically when you block and you cancel their combos. Basically, think of them like breakers from Mortal Kombat. There are many things I could talk about the gameplay mechanics, all that stuff, but it's going to be a very long one, so I'll stop right there. How does this game feel when you first play GranBlue Fantasy vs. Rising? To me, the game feels good. I mean, really good. And unlike so many footsie-based games, for example, DMF Duel just feels so turtleish and so slowish, and it didn't feel right. But with GranBlue Fantasy versus Rising, even though it's like footsie based, but it doesn't feel, how should I say, so slow. It's so fast paced and all that. The game feels good to me because I did play GranBlue Fantasy Versus, which is the prequel of GranBlue Fantasy Versus Rising. But to some people, it may feel a little strange, a little weird. But if you take the time to try the game out, understand its mechanics, the walking speed, the run, all that stuff, I feel like you guys could have a really excellent time in GranBlue Fantasy. How is the online in GranBlue Fantasy versus Rising, you might ask? Unlike its prequel, GranBlue Fantasy Versus, it didn't have rollback. It had delay based, and it's considered one of the worst online experience to some people, even though that title belongs to Smash Brothers. But the sequel of GranBlue Fantasy Versus, GranBlue Fantasy Versus Rising, is the chef's kiss when it comes to online. It's so stable, phenomenal, and I feel it's just like felt like, oh, I did do this, or it feels responsive in online. I was awestruck about how good it feels. Maybe because I played day 2 and 3 of this game, that I didn't have no type of negative experience of day 1, but all in all, this game feels excellent online. But there's only a few problems I had with online, and it's not, how should I say, the online's fault. It's more so players. You heard me right. I said players. It wasn't the online of this game. It's more so either one, the players either one rage quit, or two, they slow down the online to the point where it stops a little bit, then it continues on playing. Now, despite I say everything good about the online experience I have and all that, there's some other fighting game players that are complaining about the simple special moves being doing have the exact same cooldown, exact same damage, I would say, as a normal special move. Basically, when I say it, do a normal command special moves. I do disagree with a lot of the FGC players' take on this, and here's why. If you watch Street Fighter 6 Evo tournament and all that stuff, despite who won the championship, there's so many players that use simple controls or modern controls instead over classic controls. And despite what they say about it, it's basically the exact same thing over and over. You either adapt or lose. Now, would I recommend anyone to play GranBlue Fantasy versus Rising, even though they never play a fight game before? And that answer is yes. Even if you never played a fighting game before, GranBlue Fantasy versus Rising is really good for anyone to play. I mean, they got single player content, story mode. Heck, they're going to have a mini game that is similar like Fall Guys. I mean, GranBlue Fantasy versus Rising is going to have things that you can do offline, online, you name it. With that said, GranBlue Fantasy Versus is going to be released around November of 2023, and it's going to be released in PS4, PS5, Xbox Series, and Steam. I'm going to pick up the Steam version because I think the PC is going to be a superior online experience. Now, what you people think about GranBlue Fantasy vs. Rising? Have you guys played the beta, or have you seen someone stream it, or talk about it, or anything? Have you guys like, man, this is an awesome game, I want to play it, or I'll just wait on sale or something? Just place your comments here. What more do you want to see in GranBlue Fantasy vs. Rising? You can also comment about that too. I mean, you could say anything. You like the graphics, you like the anime character, you like the zany battles in GranBlue Fantasy Versus, all that stuff. But anyway, guys, this is the end of the video. Hey, if you found this video helpful, leave a like. Subscribe if you don't want to miss any gaming content or GranBlue Fantasy Versus Rising content from yours truly. This is your host, ERazorMK, signing off, and I will catch you guys next time.